Hello and welcome to Rise and Unwind. Each week we connect with people across the country to share ideas, inspiration, and simple ways you can enjoy life right in your own neighborhood. I'm Kayla, and on this week's show we've got this. And now time for the fun part. What is the special flavor of this year?
This year our special Thank You Farmer Project inspired flavor is called...
He tries different things for years to kind of see who am I and what is my voice now as just Paul McCartney. And part of that then comes into fruition when he starts the band.
All that and plenty more. So sit back, relax, and let's rise and unwind.
The Housemaid is one of those thrillers where everything looks perfect on the surface, but then it just slowly unravels. It's based on the best-selling novel that stars Sweeney and Amanda Seyfried in a story filled with secrets, power, and unexpected twists. Behind the camera is director Paul Feig, bringing his signature style to a dark, psychological ride that keeps audiences guessing. Paul, it's great to have you here with us. How are you, my friend?
Dan, I'm great. On a Monday morning, I've never been better.
All right, so this story pulls people in fast and keeps kind of flipping expectations. What was it about the Housemaid that made you want to tell this story on the screen?
Well, I mean, the book is so good. You know, the source material is there, and I'm always looking for, especially in the thriller genre, ones that have just big twists and turns that you don't see coming. And then once you get one twist, you get another twist, and then you get another twist. And, you know, Freida McFadden's book is just so good. There's a reason it's been on the bestseller list for 2 years now. And so it just seemed like it was just too delicious to not bring to the big screen. And
you've kind of described this movie as almost a Nancy Meyers movie gone wrong.
Yes.
How did that idea shape the look and the tone of this film?
Well, I mean, exactly what it sounds like. You know, I wanted Millie, you know, the character of Millie, which is played by Sweeney, to come into this world that just on the outside looks like the perfect situation. The house is all cream colored and beautiful, and everything is perfectly ordered. And it feels like for a girl who was living in her car just, you know, at the time, to come into this situation would be fantastic. Because it's a real, you know, the whole book is really a statement about, are we making judgments on just facades, you know, and should we dig a little deeper? You don't want to distrust everybody, but at the same time, there's a lot of con people out there these days. So you want to delve a little deeper before you give the stamp of approval to anybody.
And the power dynamics in the story are just constantly shifting. How did you approach keeping the audience guessing on, I guess, who to trust?
Yeah, well, I mean, we had to kind of really hide things. So, you know, because there's such big turns, and we kind of make you root for things that later on you'll find out you probably shouldn't be rooting for. And it was just really getting my cast, who are so amazing, to just play very real into these things so that you don't see what lies beneath any of them, because everyone's got a really big secret.
And Sweeney, Amanda Seyfried, they both play characters with a lot of going on beneath the surface. What stood out to you about the performances as pretty much everything starts to unravel?
Well, I mean, just the pivot that they made. Sydney had to kind of play very, you know, kind of naive and innocent until you kind of find out her backstory. And then with Amanda, we just had a blast kind of letting her just be sort of all over the place, because, you know, Nina, that character that she plays, is very unpredictable, and it keeps Millie off her game. So that was really fun. And then Brandon Sklenar playing the perfect husband. You know, he just is wonderful, and you know him from other movies where he plays this guy. But then, you know, to get to play with that was fun too. But no spoilers.
Of course. This movie feels like it's kind of designed to be a social watch, like either with an audience or with a group of friends. Why do you think that's important for the story?
Oh, well, first of all, movies, we need people back in movie theaters. You know, it's fun to watch a movie by yourself on streaming, but there's nothing like that group experience. And what we've been finding with this movie is people are going in there with groups. And I mean, I've sat in the million audiences now with this movie, and they're cheering and they're screaming and they're talking back to the screen, and they're just having a great time. It's very interactive. And I think with a movie like this, with all these twists and turns, you know, because I'm a comedy guy, you know, I've done Bridesmaids and all these things. Everything I do is engineered to get a vocal response out of an audience. So if you're there with your friends, you're just going to have a great time just looking at each other and saying, oh my gosh, and, you know, and talking to the screen and just, you know, going nuts.
Paul Feig, I'm a super fan, and you are a hero to me. The Housemaid is now playing in theaters nationwide. If you're in the mood for a smart, twisty thriller that keeps the surprises coming, this one is worth seeing on the big screen. Paul, I want to thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you so much. And everybody, please go. You're going to have a great time.
More than 60 years of rock and they're still filling arenas. From Rock You Like a Hurricane to Wind of Change, the Scorpions have sold over 110 million records and helped define rock for generations. Now they're heading back to Las Vegas for a brand new residency celebrating 6 decades of music. So joining us from Germany, we've got Klaus Meine and Matthias Jabs of Scorpions. It's great to have you both here. How are you?
Great.
Very good. How are you? Thanks for having
Good morning.
us.
I'm doing good. All right, it's been 60 years. That's one heck of a long time for pretty much any business. When you look back, what stands out most about the journey from those in the early days in Hanover to now headlining another Vegas residency?
Oh, it's crazy when you think about it, you know, because for German band, when we started out in the early 70s, writing lyrics in English, you know, it was a big dream, you know, to say one day we'll play the United States. And when we had the chance to come over in 79 and throughout the 80s, you know, this dream came true, you know, and it's a wonderful thing after so many years that we're still together, still playing a global stage and, still rocking like a hurricane. And we can't wait to come back for another residency in Vegas in September and hope many, many fans from all over the place will join us and see us there.
And songs, like you mentioned, Rock You Like a Hurricane, No One Like You, and Winds of Change, still connect with new audience. What do you think gives those songs that staying power?
I mean, first of all, with No One Like You, I think we were in 1982 with a Blackout tour. We were the most played radio song on rock radio, at least, and gave us the headline status in the States touring, and then followed by Rock You Like a Hurricane. The 80s were extremely good for the Scorpions, and with Wind of Change, we topped it all in the early 90s, and those are 3 iconic songs which we still play live and which carried us through the decades, you know, plus many other songs like Still Loving You, Big City Nights, whatever we have. And all those greatest hits we will play on stage at the residency in Vegas.
Yes, Vegas has become a home base for you. The last couple of years, and I think we talked last year, what makes this residency different from the previous runs you've done?
We have to find out. I mean, we are still on the 60th anniversary tour. We will always play the greatest hits because, you know, there's such a great demand from the fans. But we have time enough to think about something very special.
So when you build the set list for a show like this, how do you balance the massive hits with some of the deeper cuts and maybe even some new material?
They have to be a good balance, you know, because there's so many songs that the fans want to hear, definitely, you know, and so we throw in songs also from Rock Believer, our latest album, you know, so like songs like Gas in the Tank, but also all-time classics like The Zoo, Loving You Sunday Morning, Tease Me, Please Me, you know, all these rockers, and a couple beautiful ballads like Send Me an Angel are in the set as well, you know, so many songs we just have to play, and then we think about on digging deep into some other material we haven't played for quite a while.
So after 6 decades, what still excites you about walking on stage and hearing that crowd?
The fans. I mean, it's a roar of the audience. The minute you go out, you might be nervous before you walk out on stage, but the minute you see the fans, you're connected and it clicks, you know, and together we have a magic evening, rocking out like crazy. And especially in Vegas, there couldn't be a better place to celebrate 60 years of Scorpions.
Hey, I want to thank you two for joining me today. Scorpions coming home to Las Vegas. 60 plus years of Scorpions kick off this fall at PH Live at Planet Hollywood Resort and Casino. Tickets are on sale now. Get them at Ticketmaster.com/ScorpionsVegas. If you ever wanted to hear those anthems live in one room, this is your chance. I want to thank you two one more time for joining me today.
Thank you so much.
And enjoy. Have a good day.
So what happens after you leave the biggest band in music history? For Paul McCartney, the end of the Beatles wasn't the end of the story. It was the start of a whole new chapter. Man on the Run from Oscar-winning director Morgan Neville takes us inside Paul's post-Beatles years, the launch of Wings, and a deeply personal decade that shaped his solo legacy.
Morgan joins us today to talk about the film Paul McCartney, Man on the Run, which is now available on Prime Video. Welcome to the show, Morgan. How are you?
I'm very good. Good talking to you.
All right. The Beatles breakup is one of the most talked about moments in music history. What did you discover about Paul during that immediate aftermath that might surprise some of the fans out there?
I mean, so much. I mean, if you watch Get Back, Peter Jackson's kind of 8-hour version of the Beatles at the end, making Let It Be, you see Paul is driving everything. Songs are pouring out of him. And the question is, what happens the day that disappears? And what happens is that Paul has a true heartbreak. I mean, he's the one that wanted the Beatles more than anybody. And, he essentially is told by John Lennon that John wants a divorce from the band. And Paul, within 2 weeks, runs off to Scotland with his new wife, Linda, and their new baby, Mary, and tries to figure out what he's going to do. Is he even going to make music anymore? And so these next few years, he really struggles. And that's the part of the story I don't think people really understand, and that whole life of him trying to figure out who he was if he wasn't a Beatle.
So what was that period for him, creatively and personally, and him trying to find himself?
It was in some ways, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. I mean, I think, publicly, the public was angry that because they were heartbroken. So how dare you guys break up? Why can't you just be the Beatles? What are you doing? And Paul's wife, Linda, takes a lot of flack for, did she help break up the band? Same thing happened with John and Yoko. There's just a lot of kind of anger, and the critics are saying, your music isn't as good as what the Beatles were. It was kind of an impossible shadow to escape, but that's Paul's mission. He has no choice but to try and escape it. So he tries and tries different things for years to kind of see who am I and what is my voice now as just Paul McCartney. And part of that then comes into fruition when he starts the band Wings. So it's the model he knows. I'm going to be in a band with some other people, and there's a camaraderie to it that makes me feel like I'm not alone. And through that, he finally starts doing albums like Band on the Run and becomes kind of more the Paul of who we know today.
And we also get to see some rare archival footage and a little bit of intimate family photography from Linda McCartney. How did those elements help you tell a more vulnerable side of Paul's story?
I mean, there's incredible footage we found. I mean, there's footage of Paul filming himself alone, writing songs at a piano, or with the kids, and the singing songs at Christmas time. There is a real intimacy to the footage. And that's really the main thing I wanted to convey, that this is a story kind of from the inside out. It's a story where we really kind of understand what Paul was dealing with and how he was dealing with it. And you see an insecurity in Paul that I don't think you really see publicly.
So what do you think the story tells about resilience and reinvention?
I mean, I think it's a story, and Paul's story is how not to doubt your own creative instincts. I think, the world always wants you to doubt what you do and judge what you do. And I think Paul's strength at this time is, I'm going to do whatever the hell I feel like. And that's fine. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, fine. And he does some crazy things that work and things that don't work. He releases, Mary Had a Little Lamb as a 45, which, nobody particularly likes. But then he puts out Mull of Kintyre, which becomes the biggest selling single in England in history. So they're both kind of crazy ideas. But I think he was all about embracing the crazy idea at the time. So creatively, I think it's pretty inspirational.
And for some of the lifelong Beatle fans out there, or even some of the brand new fans that may just know Paul from today, what do you hope audiences may take away after watching Man on the Run?
I mean, I know, because everybody tells me this, when you're done watching the film, you're going to go listen to a lot of music because there's a lot of music to explore. But also just an understanding that Paul's a real person dealing with real issues that are actually pretty relatable.
Morgan, I want to thank you for joining me today. Paul McCartney, Man on the Run, is available now on Prime Video. It's an intimate look at a music icon, redefining himself in real time, and it's a must-watch for any music fan. Morgan, Neville, I want to thank you for joining me today.
Great talking to you.
WrestleMania is already one of the biggest events in sports entertainment, and this year it's turning into an entire week-long takeover in Las Vegas. From SmackDown to Raw to the massive two-night WrestleMania at Allegiant Stadium, fans are getting more action than ever. So joining us now is WWE Superstar Liv Morgan, champion, rule breaker, and one of the most dangerous competitors in the game. Welcome to the show, Liv. How are you?
Oh, thank you. I love that introduction. Thank you. I'm doing well. I woke up the greatest Royal Rumble winner of all time. So I have no complaints,
All right. Congratulations to you. You've been kicking butt, both literally and figuratively. WrestleMania 42 just got even bigger with SmackDown and Raw added to the week. What does it mean to be part of like an entire WrestleMania week instead of just one night?
Yeah, so WrestleMania week is always chaotic in the best way. We have Friday Night SmackDown, as you said, Monday Night Raw. We have the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony where Stephanie McMahon's going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. So iconic. And then we have our 2-day spectacle of WrestleMania. It is a very busy week, but it is so worth it. There is so much connection with the WWE universe. So many opportunities to run into your favorite WWE superstar and get an autograph and get a photo. Giving back to the WWE Universe and the community of Las Vegas for so graciously hosting us in our second year of WrestleMania there. Last year we had our most successful WrestleMania of all time in Las Vegas as far as attendance and viewership. And so we are excited to run it back and do it bigger and better than ever.
You've had some massive moments in your career. Money in the Bank, championship wins, the Revenge Tour. When you look at this year's WrestleMania season, where does that rank for you personally?
Ooh, well, I think for me, it might end up ranking as number one because after 11 years of hard work and dedication, I finally certified myself a spot in the WrestleMania event. Which day, I don't know, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to walk out a champion. And so I'm super excited.
Okay, and Backlash is coming up in Tampa in May, and it's the first premium live event after WrestleMania. How does the energy shift after WrestleMania, and why should fans expect fireworks at Backlash?
Yeah, so WrestleMania to me kind of signifies like the start of the wrestling new year. We work all year to lead into WrestleMania, to tell these stories and have these matches at WrestleMania. And once it's done, it kind of feels like a reset. So Backlash being the first PLE in the wrestling new year, as far as I'm concerned, in Tampa, where I'm currently from. So I kind of feel like the hometown hero walking in, a brand new champion. So you can expect excitement, chaos, and I'm known to be a little bit messy. So you can expect a mess.
All right, some fans love you, some fans love to hate you. Either way, they're watching, but how do you channel that reaction when you step into the ring?
Kind of exactly what you said. They either love to hate me or hate to love me, and I welcome and appreciate it all because I don't really care what you think about me, respectfully. It is what it is, and I'm going to do the same thing that I do regardless. But I appreciate the noise. Everything that we do is for the audience and for their energy. So whether they're cheering or booing me, I appreciate it nonetheless.
Maybe you should challenge some of them to the ring themselves.
They can't handle me. Are you kidding me?
All right, for anyone who's never experienced a WWE live event in person, what's different about being inside that arena compared to like just watching it at home?
Yeah, so watching at home, you get all the camera angles, you get the commentary on your TV. It's a very much more intimate, controlled experience. But live, you have the energy of the hundreds of thousands of people that got a ticket with you that are cheering or booing their favorite WWE superstars. It is such a mix of athleticism, sport, entertainment, blended in a way that only WWE can provide. So you are definitely in for a treat because WWE is for everyone and we want everyone to be entertained. So you bring your mom, your uncle, your cousins, your dog. I don't think dogs are allowed in the venue, so you can't bring your dog, but your dog can sit and enjoy at home if you don't come to the show. But I'd recommend coming to the show.
I've also heard that you're becoming a movie star and have a project on the way.
I have something on the way. Bad Lieutenant, I filmed in Japan last year. It's going to hit theaters in September. I was very excited about the project. I learned a lot, and I feel better after the fact, having the experience. I was lucky to be in the room with all of these incredibly talented veterans of the film industry. And the WWE audience is going to see me in a way that I think perhaps they never thought they'd see me. So I would tune in.
Liv Morgan, I want to thank you for joining me today. WrestleMania 42 takes over Las Vegas April 18th and 19th at Allegiant Stadium, with SmackDown on April 17th and Raw on April 20th at the T-Mobile Arena. And WWE Backlash heads to Tampa on May 9th. You can get your tickets and full event details at WWE.com. Liv, I want to thank you for hanging out with me today.
Thank you. Have a good day. And don't forget to watch me. Future champion over here, okay?
Some stories don't fade with time, especially when they involve trust, friendship, and betrayal. The new 3-part Hulu docuseries, Friends Like These, The Murder of Skylar Neese, revisits the 2012 disappearance of a West Virginia teenager and the shocking truth that followed. It's a story told through social media, personal interviews, and voices closest to the case. So joining us this morning are director Claire Titley and former FBI agent and polygraph examiner Dr. Rob Ambrosini. Thank you two for being here. How are you?
Thank you. Good. Thank you.
All right, Claire, what stood out to you about this case and what made you feel like it needed to be revisited now, more than a decade later?
I think one of the things that made me that was so kind of shocking about this case when I first kind of looked at it was the fact that it's 2012 and it's quite a unique era in a way for social media, because it was that era where social media was new. It was kind of a new frontier. It was the kind of Wild West though as well. And teenagers were experimenting with it. They were just putting their entire lives online. They didn't have the hindsight that we have now about kind of, what could possibly go wrong. But also it was an era where adults weren't really looking at social media. So nobody was kind of checking up on them. There were no sort of checks and balances. And that makes that generation of teenagers at that kind of time particularly unique. They're almost like the guinea pigs of social media.
And the series used Skylar's own words and social media posts that you said. How did that storytelling change the ways this story unfolds for viewers?
I think it was really important to us to try and give Skylar a voice. We didn't want her to just be a kind of a plot point in a true crime, where she's just the kind of victim and has no voice. We really wanted her to have agency in telling her own story, which is harder than it sounds, obviously when she's gone. But she left behind this incredible sort of archive of tweets, of digital messages, but also her own writing as well. So we worked very closely with her parents to make sure that we could just bring her voice kind of front and center, and that she could at least be a part of telling this story from the inside out. So we interview her friends as well, quite comprehensively, so that we can hear this story from the 16-year-old perspective, including Skylar herself.
And Dr. Ambrosini, you spent 24 years with the FBI. You've conducted thousands of polygraph exams. When you look at this case, what role did interviewing and behavioral analysis play in getting the truth?
Well, interviewing really played a significant role. And long before I became involved in the case, the two young girls, they were interviewed by case agents, state troopers, local police investigators. And during that process, you kind of started seeing this evolution of what really should be fact, right? When things are fact, it doesn't change, right? The truth is the truth, and it's always going to be the truth. But there were indications during these interviews that really did result in kind of like this evolution of their story. And of course, when that happens, the logical investigation is, why is this person changing that story, right? So this case is kind of about the behavior that's exhibited, the ideation, what's going on, what are they thinking, and how are they communicating? And that really speaks to the social media that you have here, which again was kind of in its infancy stage, if you will, compared to what it is now. So really, a lot of it did come down to the really significant interviews that the investigators were doing.
And one of the most unsettling aspects is how normal these friendships appeared on the surface. How does this case reveal about the hidden conflict, especially among teenagers?
I think what we really wanted to do with this series was kind of remind people what it's like to be 16. It's very easy to forget when you become an adult, and put that behind you. But about the fact that when you are that age, you're your brain behaves in such a way that, you know, your friends become much more important than your parents, than your family. Everything is very heightened. Your reasoning is off, if you like. Your idea of consequences, you know, is very different to that of an adult's. And when you have that combined with social media that is completely I say unregulated, but unwatched by anybody else, that's where the kind of combination was kind of so dangerous, really, I think, particularly for that generation who didn't have the hindsight that we have now.
And Claire, after someone watches all 3 episodes, what do you hope stays with them?
I hope people do reflect on their own use of sort of social media, on their children, on their family as well, and remember what it's like to be that age. But also, I hope that they come away from this feeling like they know Skylar, and you know, she would have turned 30 just a few weeks ago. So that's a life that she didn't have. And she should have gone to college. She wanted to be a lawyer. You know, there's all this life that didn't happen. And I'd love for people to come away knowing and remembering Skylar as she was.
Hey, I want to thank you two for joining me today. Friends Like These, The Murder of Skylar Neese, with all 3 episodes available to stream now on Hulu. I want to thank you two for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You grab some ice cream and it actually helps support future farmers? Not a bad combo. Culver's is bringing back Scoops of Things Day, and it's all tied to helping local FFA students. Alison Demmer joins us with more on how it works. Hi, Alison. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
So what is Scoops of Thanks Day, and how can people jump in?
Scoops of Thanks Day is happening on Thursday, May 7th. So any guest can head out to their local Culver's restaurant. And when they do, they can donate $1 to support agricultural education. And they'll receive a single scoop of our fresh frozen custard, vanilla chocolate, or our one-day only flavor of the day, Blue Barn Brownie.
And this has raised over $1 million. What kind of impact are you seeing from that?
The impact of Scoops of Thanks Day really supports local agricultural education and FFA students in your community. So when you come on out for Scoops of Thanks Day, the impact is that these students have opportunities for hands-on learning experiences, which prepare them to be leaders in agriculture for the future.
And what makes FFA programs so important for communities like ours?
Communities really need FFA programs because when we think about the future of agriculture and ensuring that we can feed a growing population, it's important that young people are really invested in agriculture. And we know at Culver's, we wouldn't be able to serve Butterburgers and fresh frozen custard without farmers. So preparing those next generation of farmers and agriculturalists is vital. And FFA does just that.
And now time for the fun part. What is the special flavor of this year?
This year, our special Thank You Farmer Project inspired flavor is called Blue Barn Brownie. It is our vanilla fresh frozen custard swirled with fudge and caramel and topped with ooey gooey brownie pieces. You don't want to miss it.
That infamous saying should now be you scream, I scream, and we all scream for Blue Barn Brownie, right?
I love it.
Where should people go for more information?
You can learn more at culvers.com or head to your local restaurant.
Alison Demmer, thanks so much for being on the show this morning.
Thank you.
That's going to do it for Rise and Unwind. Thanks so much for watching. If you'd like to learn more about the show, visit our website at riseunwindtv.com. And for behind-the-scene moments and celebrity interviews, be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Rise Unwind. You can also find our full episodes on YouTube under the same name, Rise Unwind. Until next week, I'm Kayla, and thanks for spending a little bit of time with us here on Rise and Unwind.